Hello, I'm Mike Stegman, Director of the Marshall County Conservation Board. And during this time of social distancing, we're putting out videos for the environmental education programming. Instead of having people come into the classroom, into the conservation center, we're providing these videos for the field. During this brown bag program in July of 2020, we're going to take you out and show you some of the county areas. Marshall County Conservation is responsible for managing and offering for public use and protection of the flora and fauna 32 areas encompassing a little over 2,600 acres. One of the things that people always ask me when I talk about the county areas, what is your favorite area? Where do you like to go? It's always a recurring answer that I come to, depending on what I want to do that day, whether I want to go take a kayak ride at Greencastle or Sand Lake and do some fishing, whether I want to do some hunting, depending on what type of game I want to pursue, whether it's upland game like pheasants or rabbits, or deer or wild turkey. It depends on what areas I want to go to. But today we're visiting the Marietta Sand Prairie, and this is the one that I keep recurring back to. And again, people ask me, what's your favorite area and why? And again, the answer comes back to the point time and time again. The Marietta Sand Prairie is such a diverse community of life. It's not a park type setting. We don't have any trails or shelter houses, amenities like that for people to use. This is here for the flora and fauna as a natural area. It's defined as a sand prairie and as a tallgrass prairie. The tallgrass prairie aspects come with the vegetation that grows here. The sand prairie makes it such because of the even more unique plant species that grow here. Instead of your typical tallgrass prairies species like big blue, Indian, and switchgrass, we have sand lovegrass as the prominent grass species out here. Now, of course, we have a lot of the flowers that grow typically throughout tallgrass prairie areas here, but the soils here are very sandy. And the historic background here is I call it Marshall County's equivalent to the Luss Hills. It's very sandy soil. It's 20 to 30 feet deep. It's a large sand vein that at some point in Earth's history during a very recent times, maybe back just 10,000 years is all, during the glaciation period, we had a very violent climate windstorms that would recur over and over, blowing the sandy loam soil out of the confines of Minerva Creek and the Iowa River that produced this large sand vein. Again, it's a very dry area because of the drainage aspects of it, and then even here at Sand Prairie we do have a wetland it's actually a seep coming out of the side of the hill or a boggy area. It's called a fen wetland, F-E-N, and again that's dictated by the types of plants that grow there. We have crested wood fern, Hill's thistle, a lot of hummocks, different grass species. One of my favorites in the fen area itself is a fringed gentian, which I guess to describe it would look like a miniature iris with fringe on the edge of the petals. A very beautiful blue flower, unlike your more common either bottle gentian or creamy gentian that you'd find throughout other tallgrass prairies. The Marietta Sand Prairie was acquired in two different stages. One back in the early 1980s when a remnant prairie, which means it was never destroyed, turned over, or damaged in any fashion. It was a remnant prairie that withstood the tide of the alteration of the landscape that we've done so drastically throughout the state. Then in the early 2000s, the addition was made that took it from a 17-acre site to a 229-acre site, and the restoration efforts on the crop ground in the 212 acres that were acquired, we hand harvested seed through volunteers for several years. It would come out. We put it out in our newsletter and recruit volunteers to come out, strip seed heads, and in turn plant that so that we have a reconstructed portion of the Marietta Sand Prairie. So I encourage you to come up, take a look. We have a dedication plaque on a boulder that recognizes the donors to the project. It was a multi-agency, individuals, and through gifts and donations allowed for the expansion of the site. The area is open for public hunting. The primary game pursued here are pheasants. There are a few deer and other species on site. But when you manage for game species, you also manage for non-game species. And in the background here, I can listen, hearing a multitude of songbirds calling. We have meadowlarks, dickcissels, indigo buntings, bluebirds, vespers sparrows, song sparrows. The list goes on and on. So again, it's the idea that attracts me back to the Marietta Sand Prairie is just the diversity of life. Now in the early July here, we're just starting to see some of the prairie flowers come into full bloom, and as we proceed through the month of July and into early August, you're going to see an explosion of flowers. Now, take a note that we do have rules and regulations, not just the open and closed season for allows public hunting, but you can't pick the flowers here. We don't have any mowed trails, but it's a wild area that you can go out and just explore on your own. It's a great place for wildlife and plant photography. If you have interest in that, bring your cameras, bring your phones. The technology with the phones that you can take pictures of now is outstanding. Maybe consider entering a neat photograph that you took here at Sand Prairie into our photo contest. And you can find the rules and regulations for that on our county website or on our Facebook page. So I think what we'll do is we're going to pursue some other areas during this program. We'll visit some other county park areas, but for now we're going to go take a quick look at what you might find out here at the Marietta Sand Prairie. One of the things that conservationists do, and us included with the Marshall County Conservation Board, when we manage wild areas, is the control of invasive species. Standing right in front of a big plant here, this is white sweet clover. It's an invasive species and it's trying to encroach into the Marietta Sand Prairie. So we recruit volunteers to come pull the plant up here. The soil type, again, it's very sandy, very loose soil, so they pull, it's easy. But what it would do is if we didn't control this, similar to some invasive species that you have in your own yard that you might want to control, creeping Charlie, dandelions, things like that, this will take over an entire community. So all you would have is a stand of sweet clover. So again, we try to mow it when we can, or we don't like to spray because we inadvertently hit some of the native species that are growing around us here. So again, if you ever have interest in volunteering for the Marshall County Conservation Board, this is one of the summer jobs that gets you outside, enjoying the summer weather, the wildlife, and it helps with conservation efforts. So again, give us a call at our offices, and if you have interest in coming up to Marietta Sand Prairie and doing some conservation work, we'll certainly accept that time. Again, one of the uniqueness aspects of the Marietta Sand Prairie is the soils itself. Again, I mentioned that it's all sand, very, very fine sand that was blown up by heavy winds at some climactic period of time, again going as far back as the glaciation periods here in Iowa 10 to 15,000 years ago. There's an area out here at the Marietta Sand Prairie that shows the very fine soil, and you can see it's like fine beach sand, and again dictated the plants that are allowed to grow here. The uniqueness of the sites, as you come out here, you'll notice some milkweed, and of course milkweed we've been promoting to plant the last several years as a food source for the larvae for monarch butterflies. And at the Marietta Sand Prairie, not only do we have the common milkweed, but there's several other species that are not so common. You've also probably seen butterfly milkweed, which produces the very vibrant orange flowers. But at Sand Prairie, and again, as unique as it is, there are some wet areas here. There are some very dry areas here, but we have Sullivan's milkweed, prairie milkweed, world milkweed, and swamp milkweed. So it gives you an idea of the diversity of species, not just limited to a single category. So again, I can't encourage you enough to come out to the Marietta Sand Prairie, do some exploration, see what you can find. Just walking through here, earlier as I mentioned, we're hearing a lot of songbirds vocalizing. We flushed a flock of mourning doves here in early July already that gave the appearance of though they were being young of the year already, fledged, out flying and looking as though they were adult-like in features. And then we also flushed a quail. So again, we've got the quail here, the pheasants for upland game species offered. I know there's coyotes throughout the area. Pocket gophers are thriving out here. Again, just come out, explore. If you have questions about what you've seen out here, take a picture of it if you can. Get a hold of us at our office and we'll try to help you solve the mystery. Timmins Grove County Park has Marshall County's currently the only campground, aside from Grammar Grove, available for public use. We have electrical and rural water supplies so that RV units can pull in, hook up, enjoy your evenings. We have boat ramp access to the Iowa River. Timmins Grove is one of 4 river access points we have at Forest Reserve. Here at Timmins Grove, Three Bridges County Park, and Furrow Access just on East Main Street Road on the east side of Marshalltown. So again, various access points to the river, camping available, canoeing the river when water levels are appropriate and not dangerous in any fashion. Again, we have a playground area here at Timmins Grove. Neglected to mention earlier at Grammar Grove, just this summer 2020, we recently purchased playground equipment similar to what we have here at Timmins Grove that will be installed before fall of 2020 at Grammar Grove. So anyway, Timmins Grove County Park, full amenity campground. I shouldn't say full amenity campground. We don't have the dump station or sewers hookups, but again, we do have all the electrical capacity needs that RV units need, as well as rural water. One thing too I've neglected to mention so far is a county brochure that shows all of the conservation and recreation areas in the county. We have these available at the Grimes Farm and Conservation Center. Shows all of the 32 areas that we have available for public use in the county, from the very smallest park area in Dillon, the old town square there, to the largest area currently we manage and maintain, which is the Iowa River Wildlife Area, just north of Marshalltown on Sand Road, a little over 485 acres. And then we've got the Marietta Sand Prairie and Stanley Mill area that conjoined, only separated by a road, is a little over 600 acres. So again, one end of the spectrum to the other that we offer for public outdoor recreation areas and amenities here in Marshall County. So again, come on out, enjoy Timmins Grove for camping. Day use area with the shelter, so it's a great use for picnicking. The list goes on and on. So whatever your desire, whether you have a full groomed area like what we have here at Timmins, or the wildlife areas of Forest Reserve, Grammar Grove, Marietta Sand Prairie. So again, come on out and take a look at what we've got. Grammar Grove Wildlife Area is a long-standing park in Marshall County. I can remember coming here in elementary school back in the 1970s. Again, it's a multifunctional park area. It's a wildlife area, but then it also has a multitude of trails running through the area. It's open for equestrian use. It's also a hot spot for the birding community amongst the public. There's a dedicated group of individuals that come up every fall and look over the floodplain of the Iowa River during hawk migration. Each year they count the number of species and individuals of raptors that they see migrating in September, October, and November. Bald eagles, peregrine falcons, prairie falcons, turkey vultures, any sort of hawk or raptor species that they see. In the spring of the year, the area is well known for the warbler migration and optimum viewing opportunities. So again, Grammar Grove is a multi-area area that, again, equestrian use, high use of birding, trails for hiking. It's also the area that we use to collect sap for our maple syruping that we do through the Marshall County Conservation Board. So again, Grammar Grove is a wonderful area. Come up and take a look. If you haven't been here a while, you may have noticed some changes, but then you'll also see some of the same features that have been here a long time. Probably one of the best known features of Grammar Grove is this giant glacial erratic. It's just a big granite rock that, again, during the glaciation period of time about 14,000 years ago, glaciers from the north and northeast they moved very slowly and pushed gravel and rocks, primarily originating from around the Duluth, Minnesota area. This large glacial erratic is atypical of a lot of field stones that you'd find. Now there are a few large rocks like this that you see across the landscape, but again, Grammar Grove here is a host of this big glacial erratic is what it's called, and it was brought down here again about 14,000 years ago. And one of the interesting things that I think about, encounter when I view something like this or get down to the bedrock, say down at Three Bridges with the limestone and fossils there, that we as humans have no concept of time. And the earth, we're here for maybe 100 years at best. Whereas this big rock's been here, sitting here for 10,000 plus years. Also at Grammar Grove, we have a lot of what I call microhabitats in the forested areas. There's streams that run through the area. You get these little communities of plant and insect life. The damselflies this time of year are exquisite little colors, along with other insects in the forested areas, and then the bird life. One of the neat species that you can find here in the summertime at Grammar Grove are wood thrushes, and they have a very beautiful melodic call. One of the few areas that I know of in the county where they actually nest and reproduce. So we're fortunate to have areas like Grammar Grove, again, that's multi-usable by humans as well as wildlife. Again, camping is allowed at Grammar Grove in self-contained units or tent camping. Equestrian use, the birding here, and then just your self-exploration. So again, Grammar Grove is an awesome place to come. If you haven't been here for a while, I invite you to come back. One of the lesser known locations that people might like to explore is the Forest Reserve. It's an 80-acre forested area along the Iowa River. Mature hardwood forest. It's open for public hunting. There's, again, as I mentioned previously, at the Marietta Sand Prairie, with the diversity of life in that community is just as great in the forested areas. We have large mature oaks, hickories, maples, elms. The wildlife diversity here is incredible with game and non-game species. You have white-tailed deer, wild turkey. The bird life is just like any area up and down the Iowa River that's forested. In the springtime during migration, the warbler diversity is so intense with the neotropical migrants, oriole species, indigo buntings, even goldfinches in the forested area here, American woodcock. So again, an area that's no trails officially, but if you are into exploring, Forest Reserve would be a great place to go. Since its acquisition in 1998, Sand Lake has slowly grown into one of Marshall County's most heavily used park areas. Stands to reason as water is a hugely attractive amenity for park use. Sand Lake is part of an active sand and gravel mine still, so only a portion of it is open for public use. Water vessels are allowed, canoes, kayaks, fishing boats of all sizes, but the restrictions in place at this time include electric motors only. Future plans to expand include not only the expansion of the boundaries of the park, but additional amenities. Coming up in the fall of 2000 and going into the spring of 2021, Marshall County Conservation Board has plans to install a day-use shelter house that will allow for picnicking. Aside from just open air, getting sunlight, it'll allow some shelter, shade, and to get out of the rain if it should happen to come. So anyway, Sand Lake, again, it's a unique body of water, a dual purpose, or dual construction, I guess, is one, it's partly natural, part man-made. The natural part is that the lake level itself is dictated by the level of the Iowa River, which is close by. So it's a groundwater level. The man-made portion of it is the dredging activities from the excavation of the sand and gravel for making concrete for building purposes, rocking roads, things like that. So we basically dug a big hole. Now the lake level at Sand Lake, the depth is pretty consistent all the way across at about 25 to 30 feet deep. So there's not a lot of shallow water area for fish to spawn. However, the lake does have a good population of fish, and we do supplemental stocking when we can. The Iowa DNR every other year releases 1,500 8 to 10 inch channel catfish. And then every April and October, the Iowa DNR's urban trout stocking program releases 2,000 rainbow trout into the lake. So that specifically is a put and take program. The trout are not intended to reproduce in the lake, so that hopefully will perpetuate. In addition to your regular fishing license out here at Sand Lake, you do have to have your trout fee to help support that program. So every species of fish has been surveyed that can be found in Iowa from Sand Lake for the most part. All the rough fish, I've seen carp, quillback, red horse, gar, but then also the more popular game species too, northern pike, walleye, both black and white crappie, yellow perch, bluegill. So the lake is again very popular for fishing. It does have access to the Iowa River also, so if somebody wants to pursue fishing some of the short confines and channels of the Iowa River, it's a little short jaunt to the backside. Again, we've got hiking trails out here, and hopefully in the future we'll be able to hook up with the Lynn Creek Recreational Trail that will allow additional usage from hiking and biking out here, let alone the vehicular traffic. People come out and fish from shoreline or from their boats. One of the other popular uses out here at Sand Lake is bird watching. With the aquatic features available, particularly in the fall and spring of the year with migrating waterfowl. There's been huge flocks of American white pelicans stop over here on their migration route from the Texas Gulf Coast all the way up in through Alberta to reproduce. Wintering waterfowl, including the Canada geese and numerous species of ducks, will congregate here on their fall or spring migrations. This is also a great place to sit in the parking lot and view bald eagles that fly up and down the Iowa River corridor. So again, numerous species of birds here. We've been seeing osprey here for the last couple of years in hopes that they are pioneering into the area and establish a nest site somewhere close. And of course, osprey are a nickname for them as a fish hawk. They feed solely on fish. And it's kind of, they have unique adaptations, just like a woodpecker. Typically birds will have 3 toes in front, 1 hind toe coming, protruding from the rear. Whereas osprey, like a woodpecker, as I've mentioned, has 2 toes in front, 2 toes in the rear, and that's for grasping the fish. And when they catch a fish and hold it to fly to a perch to consume it, they hold it kind of like a torpedo would be on an old World War II bomber, if you would. So they hold it underneath their belly to increase their aerodynamics. So the bird adaptations are fascinating in the bird world. But anyway, like I said, come out to Sand Lake, enjoy again the numerous amenities and activities that you can partake in outdoor recreation here at this park in Marshall County. One of the prominent land features in Marshall County is the Iowa River as it cuts across from corner to corner through the county. Roughly 20 miles of the Iowa River. Most of the Marshall County Conservation Board areas are found in association with the river, with a few of them spread out outlying areas. We have 4 river access points in Marshall County to the Iowa River, as we are here at Furrow Access, just off East Main Street on the east side of Marshalltown. So again, the 4 river access points that the Marshall County Conservation Board offers for boating access, and we've got some mosquitoes today working us, is again Forest Reserve, Timmins Grove, Furrow Access here, and then Three Bridges County Park. All of which provide access to the river for fishing, for boating access, if you want to launch your boat, which is a frequent occurrence here, fishing boats with motors going up or downstream, or the canoes and kayaks, people taking float trips up and down the river. So again, the Iowa River is a major feature, great fishing as far as catfish goes, other species, and or just for a leisurely float in the summertime when the river's down at safe levels. Greencastle Recreation Area was acquired by the Marshall County Conservation Board in the mid-1970s. Many amenities are found here at Greencastle. We have 3 day-use shelter houses, one of which is available on a rental schedule. So if you have interest there, give our office a call to see for availability and prices. Additionally, at the park, the major feature, of course, is Greencastle Lake itself, which is a 17-acre man-made impoundment. The deepest spot is 28 feet down by the dam. Recently renovated, and recently, you lose track of time, about 8 years ago, we drained the lake because of accumulated silt, plus invasive species of fish were introduced. How, we don't know. But anyway, they had taken over the lake and caused a real degradation in the fisheries. So common carp and gizzard shad were found in the lake. And so we drained it, killed it all off, and subsequently excavated accumulated silt from the south end of the lake. We're able to create additional fishing jetties and then restocking with fish species pursuant for fishing purposes, game species. We have largemouth bass, bluegill, black crappie, channel catfish, walleye, northern pike, and new to come in late 2020 will be yellow perch, made possible through donations in memorials. Throughout the park, again, additional amenities exist. We have the observatory that's offered astronomy viewing by the local astronomy club. Hiking trails are found throughout the trail going around the lake, and even the East Marshall School District has used it as a training course for cross-country runners. So again, campground plans had been made previously for here at Greencastle, but funding shortfalls have prevented that project from moving forward, but it still is in the plans in the future, but for the time being, still no camping available at Greencastle. So wildlife exhibits are also found at the park. We have 3 American bison right now, 1 bull, 2 cows, and then of course the trumpeter swan restoration program in conjunction with the Iowa Department of Natural Resources. So again, a whole multitude of opportunities await for outdoor recreation, whether it be picnicking, fishing. At the lake itself, we have boat ramp access that allows for canoes and kayaks only to be used in the lake. It's a small body of water, so we're just trying to have that laid back paddling opportunity for canoeists and kayakers. So no fishing boats, no electric motors, anything like that yet. But it also allows people that do use those vessels an additional fishing opportunity other than just shoreline opportunities. Middle of the summer here, we have some vegetation problems, but we are treating those to allow better for shoreline fishing. So be patient with our maintenance crews and give the chemical time to react so that again you can have a little bit better opportunities at fishing down here at Greencastle. So again, probably one of the more popular parks we have within the Marshall County Conservation Board. The top 3 would probably be Greencastle, Sand Lake Recreation Area, and then of course the Grimes Farm, followed soon thereafter by Timmins Grove with the camping facilities, Grammar Grove, and then we have all of the smaller parks that are again just out there available for the public use, for your use. So I encourage you, again, try to get out there, utilize what you can, what's available. We're here for you. If you have questions about any of the parks, wildlife areas, wildlife in general, we field calls all the time and we're glad to speak with people to answer their questions about the wildlife, the flora and fauna here natively found in Marshall. The Clownburg Prairie Preserve is a relatively new site for the Marshall County Conservation Board. Originally donated to the county in 1984 by Bernard Clownburg, the Marshall County Conservation Board recently took over management of the area in restoration efforts to return this to a native vegetation or tall grass prairie site. Slowly over time we're returning the fields that you can see surrounding us here to the native vegetation, but time and resources allow for just a certain sections of the area to be replanted every year or every other year. In addition to the prairies, we do have food plots out here, primarily consisting of sunflowers, using those for mourning dove hunting areas, as well as other bird use. In September of the year, when those sunflower fields are mature, it's an attractant to all bird species, including goldfinches, which I've seen numbering out here by literally the thousands. So it's a giant bird feeding station. So again, Clownbrook Prairie Preserve is a glimpse of what Iowa landscape looked like prior to European settlement. Vast open grassland areas with tall grass prairie. So you can come out here, wander around. Again, no trails out here, but feel free to come out, wander around, try to find some of the native prairie vegetation, use it for bird observations. There's bobolinks out here, dickcissels, other sparrow species, grassland nesting sparrow species, meadowlarks. So it's a great picture of historic Iowa and a landscape that's returning to historic Iowa. So again, Clownbrook Prairie Preserve, clear in the southern part of Marshall County. Another place to explore right here in your own backyard.